When we picture someone with a soaring IQ, we usually imagine Hollywood's version of genius, a loud, fast-talking prodigy effortlessly solving complex math equations on a chalkboard. Psychologists define intelligence as the efficiency of internal processing, rather than the volume of stored facts. A high IQ indicates how effectively a brain analyzes and interacts with the world in real time. Because we cannot physically see this internal processing happen, society routinely misreads the external signs. We judge a book by a cover we don't fully understand. The everyday behaviors that people frequently label as awkward, uncertain, or antisocial are the subtle indicators of high-level cognitive function. Take the first frequently misinterpreted persona, the antisocial loner. We tend to assume that someone who avoids crowds or declines invitations is just aloof or strange. Highly intelligent people actively seek out solitude because it gives their prefrontal cortex room to work. This is the region of the brain responsible for planning and complex reflection, and it requires quiet to function at peak capacity. Researchers at the London School of Economics tracked this dynamic and found a clear trend. Individuals with highly advanced cognitive abilities report lower life satisfaction when they engage in frequent social interaction compared to the average person. Even when they do participate in group settings, they default to observation over speaking. Instead of immediately jumping into a conversation to be heard, an analytical brain sits back, watches social dynamics unfold, and gathers emotional data before responding. This preference for alternative environments extends to their sleeping habits. Evolutionary psychologists suggest that the ability to adopt nocturnal patterns, a significant deviation from ancestral human behavior, indicates a high level of cognitive flexibility, as it requires the brain to adapt to non-traditional environments. Physical distance from the crowd rarely indicates a dislike for humanity. Solitude and silence are simply the necessary operating conditions for advanced pattern recognition. Then there is the persona of the constant overthinker. We are taught to value quick, confident answers, so someone who frequently hesitates or doubts their own conclusions is often judged as lacking conviction. This chart visualizes a psychological concept known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, comparing actual knowledge against confidence. You can see a massive spike in false confidence on the left side, where people who know the least confidently overestimate their expertise. Highly intelligent individuals operate at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. They sit on the far right side. Because they are acutely aware of the sheer complexity of the world, they are perfectly comfortable saying, "I don't know." An analytical brain prioritizes exploring multiple mental models simultaneously, an internal process that often registers as outward indecision. Because they treat their beliefs as updatable models rather than fixed parts of their identity, they will readily abandon a viewpoint the moment new evidence contradicts it. A willingness to hesitate, reconsider, and ultimately change direction signals an intellect that prioritizes factual accuracy over protecting its own ego. Finally, we have the quirks. Certain everyday actions routinely get dismissed as entirely silly or even childish. A person with an extremely high IQ asks an exhausting number of questions. They dissect the tiny mundane details of why a system functions a certain way, or why people behave as they do. That curiosity acts as a relentless mental engine. That engine often spills over into physical habits. Talking out loud to yourself is an active mechanism called self-directed speech. It helps the brain organize disorganized thoughts, maintain focus, and strengthen working memory. This ability to process overlapping information also fuels a strong sense of humor. Crafting a joke requires an advanced cognitive process where the brain analyzes a pattern, intentionally breaks the listener's expectations, and delivers a surprise. Intelligence journals consistently document measurable correlations between high IQ and advanced humor processing, simply because both require connecting completely unrelated ideas in milliseconds. These outward quirks represent the visible output of an intensely active cognitive system. The quiet observer, the cautious overthinker, and the inquisitive processor all share one defining, unifying trait: a constant search for meaning. An acute awareness of the complexity built into society and human behavior naturally forces a person to look deeper. They reflect continuously on human purpose, personal identity, and how individuals make sense of their own lives. So the next time you see someone sitting quietly in the back of a crowded room or completely reversing their stance on a long-held belief, you might be looking at a highly optimized brain actively processing reality. True cognitive power operates entirely independently of memorized trivia, standardized test scores, or performing calculations on command. At its core, extreme intelligence is a state of unyielding curiosity. It is a brain continuously trying to understand the strange, fascinating puzzle of human nature.